Alright guys, hi. The Perfection Cycle. So you've got your picture on your newsletter, and I tried to make it prettier than it used to be. It was kind of ugly, but just taking some time to draw something that was actually worth hanging up on people's bathroom mirrors, because I have a whole bunch of people who are like, hey, I have that hanging in my bathroom, and I'm like, wow, it's written on a napkin. So I thought I'd try and make it a little prettier. So we'll see. Anyways, basically, I want to describe this to you. And so we have this idea that, I'm a perfectionist. And I used to say the same thing all the time, except for that it's not actually possible because I'm a finite and fallen human being and I actually can't be perfect. So it's basically impossible. And so we are striving for something that's absolutely impossible. And when I strive for something that's impossible, I will come up failing every single time. And that's not always great for the human heart, failure all the time. So if I know that perfection is totally unattainable, then what I can attempt to do is be excellent. And so if I get caught in this perfection cycle, what ends up happening is I can't be perfect. And so I'm being good for a while, or what I think is perfect. I've been eating good for 30 days. And then bam, I fall off and I'm not perfect anymore. And there's this place where we're being perfect where pride might set in, or even false humility, which in and of itself is pride. But like, well, I mean, that's just not really for me, or I'm just not really good at that. And so you hear what I'm saying, but we get caught in this cycle of perfection. And then once we fail, we then swoop down to the bottom and we end up in this guilt and shame cycle. And this is something that we'll be talking about a lot, but we get into this guilt and shame cycle where, I did something and so I feel guilty for it, but a lot of times most people get stuck in the shame part, which we take on, not I just did this is who I am. So I did this, but I cheated on my food, but I am a cheater, is that shame swing pendulum. And so guilt and shame is a really dangerous place to be, because it causes us to hide, it causes us to put on masks, it causes us to believe that we are not worthy of being loved, that we are not worthy of being taken care of, that we don't have value, and it keeps us from being vulnerable, so it keeps us from relationships and blah, 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 blah. And again, we'll continue to get into all this stuff, but when we get caught in this guilt-shame cycle, when we get into the shame and guilt part, we have certain behaviors that we resort to. I used to resort to private eating. I wouldn't eat in front of people because I didn't want anybody to know that I wasn't a perfect trainer. Or I got a little bit ashamed and I felt a little bit guilty, and so I was quick with my mouth. And so being quick with my mouth kept people away. It kept me from being vulnerable. And then, okay, I'm going to try and be good again. And so we end up in this like vicious cycle of perfection, guilt, shame, perfection, guilt, shame, perfection, guilt, shame. And we live our lives there, and we're perfectionists. And this it's not healthy. And so there's 4 things that I believe that help to break this cycle so that it doesn't become a habit. And one of them is excellence. And so my job is to be a woman of excellence and not of perfection. So everything I do it excellently, but I can't do it perfectly. So it's okay. So that is my one piece here. That I am excellent in everything I do. I'm excellent in my exercise. I'm excellent in my food, but at no part do I decide that I'm going to try and be perfect, because it's just not possible. And then humility. Humility is super important in knowing that, man, I am always going to come up short, and that's totally okay. Not always. You're not always going to come up short. But having the humility enough to say, you know what, I actually can't do this, and being okay with that. And so just humbly walking this journey is super duper important. And then we have balance. And balance includes grace. It includes mercy. It includes being okay with not being all in or all out, but being nice and balanced, being consistent. And it's okay if you fail. It's okay if you don't do as well as you wanted to do. Have a little grace for yourself. Have a little bit of room to wiggle and room to mess up, and to also be really successful. And so balance is super important. I think it's one of the most beneficial things I have learned over the years. Balance and consistency, I think, go absolutely hand in hand. So learning to be consistent and balanced in what I do, rather than being all in or all out, I'm balanced. And so I think this just super important. And then the last one is self-control. And this one's a hard one. Like, this one's a hard one in, do I have self-control over my mouth? Do I have self-control over my food? Do I have self-control over my exercise? Do I have self-control over my conversations with my kids when I'm upset? Do I have self-control when somebody cuts me off in traffic? I mean, this stuff, guys, it goes everywhere. And so these 4 things, I truly, truly believe, help to just sort of break open this cycle of perfection and guilt and shame, which is just a mess. It's just so messy. So I want to challenge you to excellence and to balance and to self-control and to humility, and to not attempt to have to be perfect, because you will come up short every single time. And that's okay, because you're human. So chew on that. Challenge yourself to seeing where that is in your life, and breaking out of that mold.